Welcome back everyone to the Bucks County Conservation District's Backyard Vegetable Gardening web series. In our last video, we talked all about fertilizing your vegetable garden, and today we're going to go over some vegetable garden pests and the best ways to control them through integrated pest management. Pests are an unfortunate reality that every vegetable gardener will face. But before we go over how to control them, I want to change your perspective a little bit on how you view pests. A pest is any animal that negatively affects people, often in agriculture or human health. Agricultural pests are of particular concern because they can cause really significant yield losses, meaning less food produced and less money for that farmer. Because of this, there have been large advancements in technology to kill almost anything which would be considered a pest, especially insects. But having your own backyard garden allows you to explore native animal species and actually integrate with nature instead of immediately turning to a chemical application to rid your garden of pests. It is so important to only turn to chemical means of control when absolutely necessary, which often isn't the case for hobby vegetable gardeners. The world of insects is so beautiful and diverse, with thousands of different species, and only 1% of which are actually considered pests. Many chemical insecticides affect a wide range of insects, killing both target and non-target species. Oftentimes, this ends up killing or negatively affecting really beneficial insects such as pollinators. Whether we see it or not, humans really do rely on insects to survive. By being a backyard vegetable gardener, you can create a healthy environment to help protect these beneficial insects, all while still controlling the negative pests that you may encounter that are eating your crops. Integrated pest management, often abbreviated as IPM, utilizes a combination of strategies to efficiently and safely control agricultural pests. Today, we're going to go over the different tactics that are included in IPM, as well as giving you some really great examples of ways that you can use controls in your own backyard garden. IPM includes 4 main types of controls: cultural, physical, biological, and chemical. So first, let's start with cultural. Cultural practices are typically things you should already be doing in your garden. First is just good sanitation, including cleaning your tools between uses and removing dead plant material. There's also just maintaining really great plant and soil health, which can reduce any stress-induced damage. Some really effective cultural practices actually happen before you even plant anything in the ground, such as planting earlier or later than usual to avoid an insect's peak feeding time, implementing a crop rotation to avoid the buildup of insects over multiple seasons, intercropping to reduce the spread of insects throughout your entire garden, and also the use of trap crops around the perimeter to serve as a sacrifice for insects. These are all really great cultural practices, which, if you understand the pest you are dealing with, can be super effective in your garden. They're also the easiest to implement, and they require no additional inputs or technologies. Next are physical controls, also known as mechanical controls. This includes any type of exclusion or removal of the pest from the plant. Having a small backyard garden is a great place to implement physical control, because you can literally just go out every time you go to water your garden and remove and kill the pests yourself. You can also put down a different type of trap using different lures such as food, visual attraction, or pheromones, or just barriers to physically keep them out of your garden. We did this earlier in the How to Build a Raised Garden Bed video when we put chicken wire underneath and around our bed to prevent larger pests from entering. Physical controls are another relatively easy and inexpensive method to implement in your garden. Next is biological control. This is the use of the pest's natural enemies to reduce their population. You can research your pest's main predators or parasitoids and actually purchase them and release them into your garden. This is really great because you're utilizing your pest's natural life cycle to your advantage by adding higher populations of their predators to reduce the pest population. The only downside of this strategy is its unpredictability, since so many factors influence the predator-prey interaction. Last is chemical control. While this is a very easy and effective way to kill insects, it should only be considered after cultural, physical, and biological controls have been applied. If you catch your insect pests before the populations are too large and apply those controls right away, more likely than not, you will be able to keep their populations in check and insecticides won't be necessary. If insecticides are necessary, which sometimes they are, make sure you do in-depth research on all the different insecticides you can use. Understand its properties as well as its risks, specifically risks to human health and the environment. And then make sure you apply them in the safest way possible for you and the nature around you. Integrated pest management utilizes multiple control tactics from each types of controls to create a well-rounded management plan tailored specifically to your garden. By implementing IPM in your garden, you can reduce unnecessary control costs, prevent the buildup of insecticide resistance, and protect human and environmental health. Gardens are truly an outdoor classroom. I encourage you to look at the environment you've created and appreciate each of the organisms which have found a home there, even the so-called pests. These insects, though a nuisance to you, play an important role in the surrounding ecosystem. By having an understanding of the relationships between native flora and fauna, you will be able to integrate yourself into the ecosystem and become an important part of it as opposed to harming it. I hope you learn to look differently at the pests that you may encounter in your backyard garden, and that you feel more well prepared to control their populations and mitigate their damage. Next week, we're going to go over container gardening and also look at propagating from cuttings. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.